So imagine an impossible scenario for a second. You are playing a really high-stakes game of musical chairs.
Okay, I'm tracking with you.
Right. But here is the catch. The chairs cost like 30% more than they did just a few years ago. And if the music stops and you do not have a seat, it is literally against the law to sit on the floor.
Oh, wow. I mean, that paints a pretty terrifying picture.
Yeah.
You are describing a system where losing the game isn't just unfortunate or, a matter of bad luck.
Exactly.
The act of losing fundamentally transforms into a legal violation. You're basically being penalized for gravity.
Yeah, penalized for gravity. And that impossible game is the daily reality for tens of thousands of people in Florida right now.
It really is.
So today, we're taking you on a comprehensive exploration of this rapidly changing, highly complex landscape. We're looking at the exact intersection where unprecedented housing costs are colliding with strict new statewide legislation in late 2024 and beyond.
And we are pulling from a massive stack of intelligence for this, right?
Oh, absolutely massive. We are synthesizing data from the state's own 2024 Council on Homelessness annual report, detailed legal breakdowns of House Bill 1365, and even lived experiences. Like, we watched YouTube documentary transcripts about RV living, dug into Reddit threads from people living in their cars, and reviewed these underground survival guides on where to safely park.
Yeah, and I think it is critical to state right at the top that the sources we are analyzing today contain intensely varied viewpoints.
For sure.
I mean, you have local business owners and residents who are deeply, deeply concerned about commerce, tourism, and just the public safety of their neighborhoods.
Which is completely valid.
Right. And then on the other side, you have unhoused individuals facing compounding fines and just constant displacement. So our mission here is absolute impartiality. We are simply acting as your guides to the data, the mechanics of how these laws are actually written, and how this entire ecosystem functions on the ground.
Right. We are just laying out the pieces. And before we even touch the new legislation, we have to establish the underlying math. Because honestly, you can't understand the laws until you understand the economic engine driving people out of their homes in the first place.
And math is really the foundation of all of this.
It is. So looking at the state data, there are 31,462 individuals experiencing homelessness in Florida. That is a 2.3% increase from last year.
But that total number kind of hides a massive structural shift, doesn't it?
Yes, it totally does, because sheltered homelessness, so people in temporary housing or mission beds, that actually decreased by almost 6%.
Okay, so less people in shelters.
Right. Meanwhile, unsheltered homelessness spiked by almost 10%. We are talking about nearly 17,000 people living outside, in cars, or in the woods.
And the state's own analysis zeroes in on a primary driver for that spike, which is just the sheer velocity of housing costs. Florida's median rent jumped 30% in just 3 years.
30%. That is just wild.
It is. By March 2024, the average rent in the studied municipalities hit $2,115 a month. And, when the cost of basic shelter accelerates that violently, it creates this systemic shockwave.
Right, because it doesn't just mean people have less disposable income for, like, movies or dinners out.
Exactly. It drains emergency savings accounts dry. It forces people to max out their credit cards just to buy groceries. And then, well, they exhaust their social networks.
Yeah, like sleeping on a sister's couch.
Right, sleeping on a couch until her landlord threatens eviction for overcrowding. The safety net simply snaps.
And the report specifically focuses on this demographic they call extremely low-income households, or ELI.
ELI, yeah.
Let's translate that acronym into something tangible for you listening. Because you might hear the word homeless and immediately picture someone who is, chronically unemployed.
Which is a huge misconception.
Totally. Look at your own neighborhood. If your local barista or maybe an aide at your grandfather's nursing home or your grocery clerk makes $30,000 a year. And the math requires them to earn 3 times the monthly rent to even sign a lease.
Which means they need to make over $60,000.
Right. Where do you think they are sleeping after they clock out? They are entirely priced out of the market. And the state fundamentally acknowledges that this is a housing issue at its core.
They do. It is right there in the reports.
Okay, let's unpack this. If the state's own data mathematically proves that skyrocketing housing costs are the primary driver of this crisis, how on earth do lawmakers justify tackling the problem through strict police enforcement rather than just, building more affordable housing?
Well, it basically comes down to the timeline. The state absolutely recognizes the affordable housing gap. Their own report strongly recommends expanding investment in housing stock.
Okay, so they know it is a problem.
Yes. However, building affordable housing, navigating the zoning, securing massive capital, dealing with supply chain delays, and actually pouring the concrete, that takes years.
Yeah, you can't just throw up an apartment complex in a weekend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the state felt an immense pressure to address the immediate, visible reality of the crisis today. Encampments on sidewalks, the impact on public spaces, and the sheer volume of complaints from the business and tourism sectors, they demanded an immediate response.
They need to do something right now.
Right. They couldn't wave a magic wand and produce 1 million apartments overnight, so they created a legislative Band-Aid to manage the physical space of the state.
Which brings us to the centerpiece of that response, House Bill 1365. This law went into effect on October 1st, 2024, and man, it is sweeping.
Sweeping is a good word for it.
It outright prohibits public sleeping and public camping on all public property across the entire state. Streets, sidewalks, parks, beaches, transit facilities, building alcoves. Basically, if it is public land, you cannot close your eyes there.
And the mechanism of this bill is fascinating because it overrides local control. Historically, one city might have strict anti-camping ordinances, while the neighboring town might be way more lenient.
Right, a patchwork of rules.
Yeah, but HB 1365 creates a blanket, statewide prohibition. Now, lawmakers did write in a pressure release valve called designated sites.
Okay, what are those?
So a county or municipality is allowed to set up an approved area where public camping is temporarily legal. But a site can only operate for a maximum of 1 year, and the operational standards to get one approved are incredibly rigorous.
Yeah, I was looking at the legal guides for these designated sites, and the hurdles are astronomical. Like, a city cannot just designate an empty dirt lot and say, have at it.
Far from it.
To get certified, the site must include AD-compliant bathrooms, running water for drinking and hygiene, 24/7 security personnel, access to mental health and substance abuse services, and strict prohibitions on drugs and alcohol.
It is a massive undertaking.
And furthermore, these sites must be certified by the Department of Children and Families, which seems really specific.
It is. That specific certification requirement, the Department of Children and Families, or DCF, tells you exactly how seriously the state views the liability here.
Because DCF usually handles, like, child welfare.
Right, child welfare and vulnerable populations.
Right.
The state recognizes that if you concentrate hundreds of individuals who may be experiencing profound trauma, severe health issues, or just intense economic desperation into one fenced area, the physical and operational risks are immense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Without strict sanitation, you risk disease outbreaks like typhus. Without 24/7 security, you risk predation. So the state sets the safety bar incredibly high. But here's the catch. The massive financial burden of hitting that bar falls entirely on the local municipality.
Wait. So if a small city is already struggling with their budget, they obviously cannot afford to build $1 million designated site with running water, medical staff, and round-the-clock security.
No, most of them can't.
But the law says people can't sleep on the street. So if the city can't afford the approved site and the people have nowhere else to go, what happens?
This is honestly the most unprecedented enforcement mechanism in the entire legislation. HB 1365 essentially deputizes private citizens.
Deputizes them? How?
It grants local residents and business owners the legal right to file a civil lawsuit against their own city or county if the local government fails to clear an encampment within 5 days of a complaint.
Wait, are you serious? So a taxpayer can sue the mayor for failing to arrest the person sleeping in front of their business, even if the mayor has literally 0 shelter beds to offer?
Precisely. It traps local governments. It legally forces municipalities to enforce the public sleeping ban, regardless of whether they have the shelter capacity, the affordable housing, or the funds to build a designated site.
That is wild.
The city is legally compelled to clear the streets just to avoid being sued by its own constituents.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because if a person cannot legally sleep on a sidewalk, and their city hasn't built one of these incredibly expensive designated sites, human biology still dictates they have to sleep somewhere.
People need sleep, yeah.
So what do? They scrape together whatever money they have left and buy an old car or a beat-up RV. But the sources we reviewed reveal that moving into a vehicle doesn't actually solve the problem. It just drops you into a completely different kind of trap.
Yeah, let's examine the mechanics of that trap, because
Okay.
HB 1365 actually contains a technical exemption.
Oh, there's a loophole.
Sort of. It explicitly states that public camping does not include residing overnight in a motor vehicle, provided that vehicle is registered, insured, and located in a place where it may lawfully park.
Okay, on paper, that sounds like a viable workaround.
On paper, yes. But the YouTube documentary transcripts and legal guides show how local municipalities effectively neutralize that loophole. They use complex zoning codes and strict 72-hour parking limits.
Oh, the 72-hour rule is brutal. A vehicle cannot stay parked in one spot on a public street for more than 3 days.
Right.
After 72 hours, it is legally classified as abandoned and subject to towing. So to comply with the law, people living in vehicles have to constantly move.
Which is exhausting.
And if you are living in a 25-year-old RV because you are priced out of a $2,100 apartment, moving that rig isn't as simple as just turning the key.
No, it really isn't. Think about the physics of quicksand.
Quicksand, okay.
Yeah. Every movement you make to save yourself actually pulls you further under. You try to move your older RV to comply with the 72-hour rule. But because the vehicle is old, moving it aggravates a leaky pipe or causes a tail light to short out.
Oh, man.
And that brings us to a new municipal tactic: RV safety inspections. Some Florida cities have begun requiring RVs parked in residential areas to pass strict municipal inspections.
What are they checking for?
They check the plumbing, the electrical wiring, and the sewage containment systems.
And the data from the documentary noted that the average RV owned by someone experiencing vehicular homelessness was manufactured between 1998 and 2007.
So they are old.
Very old. Over 65% of them fail these municipal inspections immediately. And the required repairs aren't cheap. We are talking between $2,000 and $6,000 for a plumbing overhaul.
Which is impossible for someone in that situation.
Right. If you had $6,000 lying around, you wouldn't be living in a broken down camper in a Walmart parking lot.
Exactly. And when you inevitably fail the inspection and cannot afford the repair, the city issues a 24 to 48-hour notice to vacate.
And if you can't move it?
Well, if you cannot move the vehicle, like perhaps the transmission is shot, you receive a citation. A standard $75 ticket for illegal parking or habitation.
Which seems minor, but...
But remember the quicksand. You need that $75 to buy food or bottled water, so the ticket goes unpaid. Within 6 months, late fees turn that into $350.
Oh.
And unpaid municipal debt automatically triggers a hold with the Department of Highway Safety.
Which results in a suspended driver's license.
Exactly.
And it dominoes from there. Because your license is suspended, your auto insurance provider cancels your policy. Now you are sitting in a vehicle that is unregistered, uninsured, and illegally parked.
The trifecta.
Yeah. And then the tow truck arrives. And towing an RV requires a heavy-duty wrecker. That is a $300 fee just to hook it up, plus $50 to $80 every single day it sits in the impound lot.
And, I mean, if the individual couldn't afford a $75 parking ticket, they certainly cannot afford $600 to retrieve their home from impound.
No way.
So the city eventually auctions off the vehicle to cover the storage fees. The person loses their shelter entirely and ends up right back on the sidewalk.
The exact sidewalk where it is now illegal to sit down.
Yes, it is a closed loop.
But the quicksand doesn't stop swallowing you even after you lose the vehicle. Let's say this person finally gets a steady job and saves up for a deposit. Our sources highlight a devastating paradox regarding housing applications.
The background checks.
Yeah. Most property management companies and RV parks run mandatory criminal background checks. And a single misdemeanor conviction for illegal camping or vehicle habitation automatically disqualifies an applicant from up to 45% of available affordable housing programs.
It really is a closed loop of consequences.
Mm-hmm.
You are legally punished for not having a home, and the resulting legal record from that punishment actively prevents you from ever securing a home in the future.
It makes no sense.
And as we noted earlier, 63% of people living in their vehicles are actually employed. They are the caregivers, the retail workers, the logistics staff making maybe $30,000 a year.
Working hard every day.
Right. They just hit an absolute income wall. And even if they miraculously manage to secure a subsidized housing voucher, the background check flag from their survival-based citations just gets their application thrown in the trash.
Which brings us back to the immediate, desperate reality of tonight. If the streets are illegal, and parking your RV in a neighborhood gets you towed and trapped in this bureaucratic quicksand, where do people actually go when the sun goes down?
It is the ultimate question.
We dug deep into a Reddit thread from a community called Poverty Finance, along with an underground survival parking guide, to understand the actual lived experience of trying to find a safe place to simply exist.
And the strategies detailed in those sources are entirely focused on invisibility and physical safety. These guides instruct people to seek out hospital parking lots.
Which feels surprising at first.
Right, but the rationale is highly logical. Hospitals have 24/7 activity. There are nurses changing shifts, families visiting patients, delivery trucks arriving.
So you kind of just blend in.
Exactly. That constant coming and going deters crime and allows a person sleeping in their sedan to blend in unnoticed. Some big box stores, like Walmart, occasionally allow overnight parking, though the sources indicate that policy is rapidly changing on a store-by-store basis due to local pressure.
But the detail regarding highway rest stops is what truly shocked me. Because according to the guides, Florida highway rest stops enforce a strict 3-hour rule.
3 hours.
Yeah. Non-commercial drivers are legally only permitted to park and rest for a maximum of 3 hours.
And that leads to a severe physical and psychological toll. The constant displacement degrades human health rapidly. I mean, you have the perpetual fear of a police officer tapping on your window at 2 a.m.
Just constantly on edge.
Yes. You have the ambient stress of constantly tracking the 72-hour limit on streets. You never achieve deep restorative sleep. In fact, the documentary sources cited a terrifying statistic. Vehicle dwellers experience 22% more fatigue-related traffic crashes than house drivers.
Are we actually outlawing a biological necessity? I mean, a Reddit user pointed out the sheer absurdity of this. Humans physically require more than 3 hours of continuous sleep to survive, let alone function.
It is basic biology.
How is a person supposed to maintain their employment-like operating machinery, driving a delivery route, or managing a cash register, if the law dictates they can only survive on fragmented 3-hour naps at a rest stop before being forced back onto the highway?
It is a profound observation. When you criminalize the space required for a biological function, you criminalize the function itself. Contrast Florida's approach with states like Washington or California, as noted in the sources.
How are they handling it?
Well, those states have implemented safe parking programs. These are sanctioned, secure parking lots, often located on municipal or nonprofit land. They're equipped with basic sanitation like portable toilets and trash cans. People can park legally overnight, sleep without the threat of arrest, and even connect with caseworkers.
So why aren't private organizations stepping up to offer that in Florida? Like, if the state won't do it, surely churches or charities could just open their parking lots to these RVs.
You would think so,
Yeah.
but the sources show that Avenue is actively being closed off by municipal enforcement.
How so?
The YouTube documentary highlighted instances where churches attempting to offer their private parking lots as sanctuary for RV residents were hit with massive municipal fines. We're talking ranging from $1,000 to $5,000.
Just for letting someone park.
Yes. The citations were for operating an unpermitted RV park or violating local zoning codes. The liability has become so severe that private property participation in hosting vehicle dwellers has plummeted to under 4%.
Wow, it is an airtight seal. The state government bans sleeping on public property. The local municipalities use zoning laws to ban parking on city streets, and then those same municipalities levy massive fines against private churches that try to offer a safe haven on their own land.
Furthermore, some municipalities actually prohibit individuals from connecting temporary power or water hoses to vehicles outside of designated RV parks, even if the property owner explicitly agrees to it.
Wait, really? Even with permission?
Even with permission. The documentary noted that up to 80% of vehicle dwellers in Florida are living without reliable utilities. They are spending $45 to $70 a month just purchasing bottled water for drinking and hygiene, while facing severe, life-threatening heat exposure risks during the brutal Florida summers.
Okay, so what does this all mean for you listening? We have navigated the math of a 30% rent spike, the strict enforcement mandates of House Bill 1365, the bureaucratic quicksand of RV regulations, and the sheer exhaustion of running from rest stop to rest stop.
He has a lot to take in.
It is, but it's vital to remember that this isn't just an abstract policy debate happening in a state capitol building somewhere. This crisis is a real-time reflection of how a society chooses to balance property rights, economic pressure, and basic human dignity.
Exactly, and the consequences ripple outward. Whether you own a home, operate a storefront on Main Street, or currently listening to this while trying to find a safe place to park your car for the night, the cost of this crisis is borne by everyone.
It really affects the whole community.
It does. When housing fails, that financial burden simply relocates. It moves into emergency room visits, increased police enforcement budgets, endless legal and court proceedings, and ultimately the profound loss of human potential.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to mull over. Our entire societal framework is built on an assumption of stability. If we require a person to possess a physical residential address just to obtain a valid ID, and they desperately need that valid ID to secure a job, sign a lease, or even open a post office box to receive mail, are we intentionally designing a maze that has no exit?
That is the question.
If the law absolutely demands stability before it will offer a pathway to help, how does a person ever achieve stability in the first place?
You are back to the game of musical chairs. But now the music is stopped, all the chairs have been removed, and the rules strictly dictate that you are not allowed to build your own.
Man, that is a heavy note to end on, but an important one. Before we wrap up, we want to let you know how you can support the show. You can head over to perfectlyhomeless.com, where you can grab a Perfectly Homeless hoodie or t-shirt, or simply buy me a coffee to help keep these comprehensive explorations coming. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time.
Perfectly homeless is more than a phrase. It's a perspective. If you'd like to support our channel and help us keep exploring these vital topics, click on over to the Perfectly Homeless Etsy store. Pick up a warm hoodie with our logo and support the channel. Perfectly Homeless is a brand built from real life and real lessons. Wear the message of freedom and support the Perfectly Homeless mission.